make a simple lemon shrimp caper pasta dish. And then I'll again let you know what, if you don't have those ingredients at in your house, then we can go ahead and talk about substitutes. All right, so right now we'll start with the Caesar dressing. And I'm just gonna point out all the ingredients that we have and to make a traditional Caesar dressing right now, okay? So right now we have garlic cloves. Typically you could use 1 garlic clove for this recipe. I like my Caesar dressing a little bit garlicky, just because I like the flavor that it adds a little spice, and it's also good for my digestive system. So I just add a couple, like 1 more garlic clove. We'll have egg yolks. So it's not whole eggs, friends. It's just the yolk part, okay? You could save the whites to add into your omelet later on. You're a baker and you want to make egg yeast rolls. You could use that egg white and brush it on your bread, or you could just go ahead and add it in a smoothie, or shoot it raw, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Worcestershire sauce is a key ingredient to add some flavor to the Caesar dressing. It kind of adds an umami flavor, and what umami is, friends, is just that basically that hearty, savory flavor that you get. It kind of like umami brings all the flavors together in the savory aspect. Okay. Next up, another key ingredient to making any kind of vinaigrette or dressing is mustard. It can be whole grain mustard, like, you know, what we have here in Asheville. Lusty Monk is our local product. Or you could use, you know, French's or any mustard. The mustard helps emulsify the oil and all the liquids together to get its access to thickener, okay? Fresh lemon juice I just had a couple of lemons. I cut them up so I could juice them. I like to juice it fresh into whatever I'm making, as opposed to juicing it first and having it in like a cup or something to the side. All right, anchovies, which I love. I eat these. I can like take one out and actually put them in my mouth. So anchovies. I know a lot of people, Danielle just shook her head no. She's not a fan of anchovies, but I cook with it a lot, so she kind of does like it. But anchovies is, you know, adds that little, you know, fishy flavor to the Caesar dressing. All Caesar dressings pretty much have anchovies in it, or like a paste. That's Zoe guarding the house. If you don't like anchovies, that's cool. You can, and you still want that fish flavor, friends, you can use a touch of fish sauce. And if you don't, actually, Worcestershire actually has a kind of similar flavor to anchovies, kind of. So you could just leave that fish part totally out. Especially if you're a vegan, just leave it totally out. If you like it, you like a more fishy flavor Caesar dressing, go ahead and pop a couple more in. We're probably going to use 1 or 2 today. But yeah, so yeah, exactly. Fish sauce or anchovies or anchovy paste. You don't find yourself using anchovies a lot. You don't want it sitting in your fridge. They have tubes of anchovy paste at the store. And you can just like do like a drop or 2 into the dressing. All right. Parmesan cheese. I have Parmesan cheese in the fridge. It's already grated. Sometimes I actually like getting the block itself and just shaving it in. You can use any, you know, hard cheese that they have at the store. Parmesan, Asiago, let's see, Pecorino. Those are good. Salty, you want a salty cheese for your Caesar dressing, okay? And like I said, again, if you are vegan, nutritionally these works very, very well. Or, you know, a vegan substitute, instead of having the eggs, the cheese, etc., you can actually use hummus, right? And that can be, and then you add your garlic in there, your mustard, some Worcestershire, and it actually comes together. It's kind of weird if you think like chickpeas, but chickpeas are pretty bland, that you can make your Caesar dressing from that, okay? And then this is just oil, olive oil, about half a cup here, friends. And I'm gonna show you how to slowly drizzle it in to emulsify the dressing. All right, cool. We're gonna get a little loud right now with this. This is a food processor. If you find yourself that you cook a lot at home and you make a lot of sauces, or you puree a lot of things, make smoothies and vinaigrettes, I suggest you invest in one of these. You know, I've had this for a long time. We don't use it often, but when I do want to make something like a cedar dressing, it comes in handy. Or you can actually get like an immersion blender, and that would take place for a food processor. You just can't make like smoothies or sauces as efficiently with an immersion blender. All right, cool. So Dave, you want to get a little closer? We're gonna go ahead and start this process. Now, just to give you a little trick on how a food processor works, this little black button here, friends, this activates it. So when you press it down to on, it's gonna spin that blade. The key is to make sure that your blade is in securely, so you're not cutting yourself or it doesn't like fly around into the bowl. And this white stem right here, friends, if you line it up to this black dot like I'm doing there, it locks, as you just heard. This pushes down, the white stem pushes down that black button to actually activate the spin, all right? And then this lid has to snap on so it all aligns together. All right, garlic goes in first. What I typically like to do, friends, is go ahead and spin this first and get this all chopped up finely. That way, when you're drizzling in the oil, your garlic is actually mixed in and you don't have big chunks of garlic in your dressing. All right? You see how it's all diced up and getting into itty bitty pieces? That's what we're looking for. Cool. Turn that off. Open this lid. Take my spatula, friends. Just gonna go ahead and scrape around the bowl. Just make sure that all that garlic isn't gonna be incorporated into the dressing. All right, homies, next up, 2 egg yolks, okay? Worcestershire. You know, it just depends on your taste. A lot of people do not like the way this tastes. That's fine. You could leave it totally out, or you could add like a dash. I'm gonna go ahead and add 3 dashes in here. It's a good bit. I would say those 3 dashes probably equates to 1 teaspoon. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze in some mustard here. About a teaspoon there. I'm gonna squeeze in about half a lemon juice, okay? All right, now the goodness, the beauty of an anchovy. I wish you guys can smell this. So, cause I love the taste of anchovies, I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 because I feel a little fresh today. I'm gonna put 2 anchovies in here. All right, so the key is you put all these ingredients in, you're gonna spin it, spin it, spin it, and then we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you how to emulsify. So all ingredients are in here: garlic, Worcestershire, egg yolks, mustard, and anchovies. I'm so crazy, I love to taste anchovies. Sometimes I add the oil in here. I won't do that today, but typically I like to add some oil. All right, friends, we'll put this back on, turn it on, get it going. What I'm looking for right now is just to make sure that everything's incorporated, right? So you see that anchovies are broken up, those are what these black dots are. So I know that they're pretty cut up in there, so we go ahead and start emulsifying. I'm just preventing, at this point, large chunks in the dressing. With the oil, with it on, you're gonna do a slow drizzle. The slow drizzle is it's what helps emulsify your dressing. It would defeat the purpose if we have this going and you just dump all the oil in, because this is gonna be your thickener. The stream of your oil will determine how thick your vinaigrette is, okay? See how slowly I'm digging this in, y'all? So the work is being done in the processor. It's spinning, and as it's spinning with the oil drizzling in, it's still thickening up. It's kind of weird. I can kind of hear that it's thickening up.
The sound is a little bit messed up, Jay.
I can actually hear how thick it's actually getting.
I think you may be covering the a mic, Jay.
All right, we stop right there, friends. I'm gonna scrape the bowl, and I'll
Adam said something. What'd you say, Adam?
I think you may be covering the mic with your hand, Danielle.
Oh, thanks.
There you go.
Sweet. So right now I just stop. I'm gonna scrape the bowl, get all this goodness in. Okay, you can see how thick that is already. And that's just basically because we're drizzling oil and it activates with the mustard and it becomes emulsified. So after I scrape the bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and add the cheese right now. This is about a 1/4 cup Parmesan. You could cut back or you could add more. It's all preference. You can see how thick it's getting. See that, y'all? Kind of looks like a mayonnaise, the texture of a mayonnaise or a Caesar dressing. Yeah, I'm gonna stop it there because I think it's a good thickness. I'm not gonna add any more oil, as you can see. You'll see that. Okay. I tend to not add any extra salt to my Caesar dressing because there's salt in the cheese and there's salt in the anchovies. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and taste it to see if it's where I like it. And matching it, add some black pepper. You can add your black pepper in now, or you can add your black pepper, you could once you toss it with your lettuce greens, your romaine lettuce. After you toss this dressing with the greens, you just go ahead and top it off with more black pepper if you feel. All right, y'all. Let's see. Ooh, that's good. All right, so we have it. I'm just gonna go ahead and place this in a bowl. I'm not gonna show you how to make, dress your lettuce. Purpose was to show you how to make a Caesar dressing. Now, if you find that this is a little too thick for you, that's totally fine. You can add, when it's still in the bowl, y'all, you can add some water to it. Like, I'm talking about for this amount here is about 1/4 cup of dressing, friends. I would go ahead and add maybe a teaspoon of water at a time, and it will loosen it up to the consistency that you may like. Cool? Any questions right now?
Yeah, I think there's a few questions.
All right, let's go.
You, Liz, and you can ask your question. Or I think you can unmute yourself, Liz. Nope. Okay, there you go.
Okay, hi Jay. I was wondering, do you have a subscription service like for produce?
Good question. So we typically do a CSA bag through Mountain Foods, who is our local mass produce company in town. A lot of restaurants use them. So I typically go through them, and you go to, I think it's mountainfoods.com. And that's where I get my fresh produce. And they basically source out to about 100-mile radius of the actual area of all the farmers in town. And it goes, I think it's 3 seasons. It's typically spring, summer, fall.
May through November.
May through November. And it's a good variety. I like it because it challenges me, because I typically, you'll get in your box where you typically won't go to the store to buy, so it's kind of fun. Sometimes, I hear a lot of friends, I don't know what to do with this thing. If you want help, just shoot me a text or call me. I'll help you out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
A question for Holiday. Oh, a question for Allison as well.
Go ahead, Holiday.
Okay, thanks. Hey Jay, I have a question about the food processor. What are the price ranges, and was that one actually a quiet one, or did you all just do something with your phone to mute it?
Great question. It's actually a quiet one itself. I think it's because the motor is actually small in comparison to other ones. This one is a Cuisine Art Pro Classic, and I want to say we purchased this probably I don't even know, maybe 6-7 years ago. And I want to say it was probably $50 to $60. That's about the range you want to spend. I wouldn't go anything more than that, because unless you're finding yourself using it every single day, go ahead and spend the higher amount. But I would just go ahead and do a search and see how much cuisine arts are and go from there. And even go to like Bed Bath and Beyond and wait for that, like, you know, when we get that 20% coupon, yo, use that. Yeah, cool.
Cool. Let's go over to Allison. Who has a question?
Yeah, I typically use, I don't have a food processor, and I use an immersion blender. So when you're adding the oil and controlling the stream, limiting the stream to control the thickness, is there a different trick or technique you would use if you're doing an immersion blender?
Yeah, great. So when you're using your immersion blender, do you do it in a bowl or do you have something tall enough, like a quart container? I work in professional kitchens, so like quart containers I have in the house. So this is a good size of something, or you can use maybe like a mason jar, something that the immersion blender can go in as opposed to like just using a bowl. And what you're gonna do is, let me pull up my immersion blender just to show you. All right, so you have your cup or something, you have your immersion blender, it doesn't fit. Okay, live TV, friends. So, quart container, right? Immersion blender goes in. So when you have it pulsing right now, at this point, you're gonna go ahead and drizzle the oil in. So you have it going, you're going, and you're gonna drizzle the oil in, okay? And sometimes it helps to use the immersion blender, like kind of like go up and down with it, okay? Cool?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any more questions? Cool. All right, so next up, exciting, shrimp pasta with capers, lemon. I added some extra ingredients in here because I had it in the fridge. So how I start off all my pastas when I make at home, when it's not like if I'm doing a pasta just like in a pan for Danielle and I to eat, I'll start off with minced garlic. This is equivalent to 2. You can use less if you like less garlic, you use more, or you can stick with the 2, okay? Mince it really small. This is 1 small shallot. This was probably equivalent to the size of like a little larger than a marble, okay? And I just went ahead and cut the whole shallot in half, friends, peeled off the outside layer of the skin, and just half moon them really thin, okay? The key is, y'all, when you're using your knife and you're slicing vegetables or onions or garlic to this thinness, the key is to have a really, really sharp knife. I know a lot of people are scared to have their knives really sharp because they think you're going to cut yourself more, but you're more prone to cutting yourself with a dull knife. And if you cut yourself with a dull knife, it's actually it's worse. You're going to probably get stitches, whereas opposed to like a sharp knife actually just cuts straight through. I know it's really gross and talking about, but it's good to know to have a sharp knife, okay? Salt, okay? If you can see, the grain of my salt's pretty coarse, y'all. That's what I like to cook with. The coarser the salt, it's actually less saltier than if you use iodized or like fine salt. The only time I use fine salt is if we're popping popcorn, and that's it. I like to use coarse. It tends, you can use a little more and it's less salty. Sometimes if you go with fine salt and you just go a touch too much, even like a sprinkle, it can mess up your whole dish because it becomes extremely salty. All right, fresh crushed red pepper, friends. It's just gonna add a little bit of heat to it. If you like your food a little spicier, you go ahead and add a little more. Black pepper, which I have here. All right. So we have some shrimp. So had this in the freezer, thawed it out. Sometimes I buy, 5-pound bags of shrimp. And what I do is, I'm allergic to shrimp, so I just basically keep it in the freezer for Danielle. And since I don't eat it, I'll buy it at the store and I'll put them like maybe anywhere from 10 to 12 pieces in a bag and freeze them separately. That way, when I'm ready to cook it, I just pull out a bag for her, and that would be a good sized meal. So sometimes people ask me, hey Jay, what does it mean when there's a number attached to the shrimp? So sometimes you hear people say U20s or 2125, for instance, right? That is basically the number of shrimp, individual shrimp that comes in a pound. So if it's a U10, under, U is for under. If it's U10, that means that the shrimp are humongous because there's 10 pieces of shrimp in a pound. These ones, they're pretty big, you know, right here. These are considered 2125, and that just means there's about approximately 21 to 25 shrimp per pound. All right. So don't let anybody fool you when you go to the grocery market and you go to the seafood part. Like if they say, you know, these are 2125s and they look really small, be like, I think you're playing with me. So green peas, I'm just adding this just to add a little more vegetables to this dish. Had some frozen peas in the freezer. I went ahead and took out about 1/4 cup and we're gonna use it. Capers. To add some salt and some acidity to this dish, okay? I typically like to add capers to our pasta just because sometimes when you buy that jar for whatever reason you buy capers for because a recipe calls for a tablespoon of capers, but yet you have like 4 ounces of a jar left, just pop them in some pasta and you can keep using it. But capers stay in your fridge like pickles do. They last for a while, okay? Just a little pat of butter that I'm gonna add at the very, very end to bring it all together and kind of thicken the sauce just a little, okay? Fresh lemon juice, pasta that I have pre-cooked here, okay? And white wine. So white wine is basically used for deglazing. And it was really good that before this class, Danielle and I were talking and she's like, babe, what does deglazing mean? So basically, when you are sauteing up your food and you know how your food tends to like stick brown and it gets stuck to the pan and everything, well, deglaze, that's called fond, F-O-N-D. So the little brown bits that's in the pan, you want to get all that flavor and that goodness into your dish. You use wine, beer, water, stock, apple juice, orange juice, anything you want, tomato juice, anything you want to add to whatever dish as long as it makes sense. That way the liquid hits the pan and it kind of releases all that fond from the pan and it incorporates into your dish, okay? I could have used red wine today. I chose not to because I just don't want my pasta to turn red, but it doesn't really matter. You could use any kind of liquid. It's better to use a flavored liquid as opposed to just water if you want to like have a little more flavor into your dish. Cool? So I have this pan already going, friends. Yeah.
A salted butter or is it unsalted butter? What do you put in the pan?
Always unsalted.
Great.
Yeah. I always use unsalted. Reason being is it's kind of hard to judge how much salt you have in your whatever you're doing, baking, your dishes. So I always tend to do unsalted and I control how much salt I add to my dishes or baking.
All right. Second question is about capers themselves. Like, what exactly are capers? Coming from Craig.
So good question. I don't know the exact answer, but they're like little berries. It's a flower bud. See, Danielle knows. It's a flower bud, and they're just itty bitty berries that grow on like a tree. And it just basically they pick it off the berries off the trees. They're kind of like olives. And it gets brined, and brine basically is a solution where you submerge food items in to incorporate some kind of acid and salt into it prior to cooking it. And basically the brine is almost like a pickling solution that you would do with pickles and cucumbers. Did I answer your question?
Great. Thanks,
Sweet.
Jay.
Yeah. Cool. Any more questions? All right, let's get the fun started. So I already have my pan preheated on fairly low because I do not want to burn my garlic or my shallots at this point because as you can see how small I cut them up. I'm just go ahead and add a little bit of oil to my pan. This right here is canola oil. Y'all can use olive if you want. Or you can use coconut oil, sunflower, vegetable. Okay, Gonna go ahead and add the garlic right now. Shallots. Salt. Sorry. So I can see my garlic's burning a little, not burning, just browning. I took it off the heat. I'm gonna turn down my pan just a touch. I'm gonna add my pepper. Okay, get that going. Now, I'll use a spatula today. I typically don't, but just to show y'all how to move it around. Okay, you see how the bits down here are starting to brown? That's your fond, okay, friend? And that's a good flavor where you're gonna wanna add to your dish. So I'm just going ahead and moving this around, getting all the garlic, shallots, salt, pepper, talking to each other. It's beautiful, okay? Right now, add the shrimp. Shrimp does not take long to cook, okay, friends? They're already changing color, you see? They're starting to change color a little. You want them to be translucent, okay? But just know, I added the shrimp first step, so it's gonna continue cooking while I add the rest of the ingredients, okay? I'm gonna add the peas. Capers. They're starting to change color, starting to become a little opaque, friends. That's what we're looking for, okay? Turn this up just a little higher. At this point, I'm gonna deglaze, okay? Just because I'm messing with the temperature of the pan, is kind of the temperature of the pan is dying down a little, but it's okay. Wish y'all could smell it. It smells great. All right. So people ask me how much, wine or beer or juice or water or stock do you add. It probably equates to 3 tablespoons. What I like to call it is around the world. This is what around the world is. It's around the world, one time around. Okay, so you just let the alcohol cook out right now. It's supposed to be bubbling at a higher, but because I've been messing with the flame, it's causing it to die down just a touch. And what we're doing right now, so the wine, friends, just basically got all the fond off of the bottom of the pan, which is cool. Okay. As you can see, there's no more, all those brown bits are up in here. Get the steam out. So it's starting to bubble, which is great. As you can see, that's what we're looking for, okay? That at this point, when it's starting to bubble, y'all, it's starting to cook out the alcohol. Because we don't want our dishes to taste like pure alcohol. It's just adding a flavor and to deglaze the pan. Just, stir around. As you can see, it's still, the shrimp are still cooking. They're not overcooked right now. You want your shrimp to have a snap to it when you eat it. So when you bite it, you want it to actually like have a pop. That's a good texture of your shrimp. Sometimes if your shrimp is mushy, it's probably overcooked or way under. But it's probably more overcooked than anything. All right. So at this point, I'm gonna add the butter. And you're gonna see that it's gonna thicken up the sauce a touch. Do little swirls, let that butter do its magic. I could see the bubbles are a little bigger. That means the sauce is a little thicker. I don't know if it's hard. It may be hard for y'all to see. Cool. I'm gonna add in my pasta at this point, and I want all that juice and goodness in here to coat it. Okay. I'm gonna toss it. All right. If you don't have that tossing skills, homies, you can take your tongue, your spatula, and just fold it all together. Last thing, some fresh lemon juice, okay? Just gonna squirt, it's about a quarter of a lemon. I just want it to be nice and fresh. I'm adding it now because I know this dish is about to be done. And I don't want that acid and that fresh, that brightness of the lemon that will bring to the dish to cook out. So I just finished it with the lemon, okay? That's it, we're done. So, right here. All right, homies, so we're gonna come over here and plate it up. Daniel gets a lot of shrimp today. Damn. All right, cool. Stay there, hold 1 second. So, this is what we're working with, okay? I didn't have any fresh basil. At this point, you could top it up with basil, parsley, tarragon, whatever you fancy. I actually had some spinach in the fridge, and what I did was I chiffonade it. When you read a cookbook, friends, and you read the word chiffonade, this is basically what it means. Thinly sliced basil. They typically when you see the word chiffonade, you're talking about basil or leafy greens, etc. But this is basically what chiffonade looks like, okay? You're just gonna sprinkle some on top. All right, spinach flying everywhere. Now I have some Asiago that I had in the fridge that's been left over. I take my microplane, friends. I'm just gonna go ahead and grate some over. Whatever you fancy, however much you like. Cool. There we go. Pasta dish a la Chong.